It was supposed to be just another ordinary Tuesday, a sunny, unremarkable day in the middle of a quiet suburban street. Sergeant Marcus Williams had just finished physical therapy and was heading home, cruising in his specialized wheelchair van, his lifeline to the outside world. A van that wasn't just a vehicle, but a carefully modified $85,000 piece of machinery designed for one purpose: to let a man who gave up his legs in Iraq live a normal life in a country he fought for. And in the next moment, glass screeching tires, metal buckling. A silver Mercedes slams into the side of Marcus's van, obliterating the passenger side and sending the entire vehicle spinning into the curb. The air is filled with smoke and dust.
If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Your feedback helps shape what we cover next, and you being here keeps the conversation going. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
And then silence. Behind the wheel of the Mercedes is 21-year-old Tyler Preston, who just seconds before was texting someone about weekend plans. Tyler, son of Congressman David Preston. Tyler, who doesn't even check if Marcus is okay before stepping out, brushing imaginary lint off his expensive jacket, and casually surveying the damage like he just dinged a shopping cart in a Whole Foods parking lot. And then, the line that would turn a bad accident into national outrage. "It's not a big deal, my dad will buy you a new one." You ever hear something so stunningly tone-deaf that it echoes in your brain like a fire alarm? That was the moment, not because it was a surprise, because it was. That sentence was exactly what you'd expect from a rich kid who grew up knowing that consequences are usually someone else's problem. Meanwhile, Sergeant Williams is strapped to a stretcher, his wheelchair mangled beyond repair, his entire means of independence gone in the blink of an eye. But Tyler's checking his phone again, already asking someone to get a hold of insurance. No apology, no empathy, just entitlement so thick you could bottle it and sell it to lobbyists. But here where the story takes a turn. Because Marcus wasn't about to be another footnote in someone else's mistake. This wasn't just an accident. This was a deeply symbolic gut punch. A war veteran, disabled in service to his country, having his hard-won independence destroyed by a careless, privileged kid who treated it like a minor inconvenience. And when this went to court, it wasn't just a legal proceeding, it was a reckoning. Enter Judge Frank Caprio, a man known for blending compassion with accountability, the perfect person to sit between these two very different versions of America. When Tyler walked into the courtroom, he didn't look concerned. He looked annoyed, like someone forced to attend jury duty, dressed in a perfectly tailored suit flanked by lawyers. His expression said it all: "This won't take long." But Judge Caprio wasn't interested in being charmed. He asked Tyler point-blank, "Were you texting while driving?" Tyler replied with the casual shrug of someone used to being let off the hook, just for a second. A second that wrecked a veteran's only means of independence. A second that could have killed someone, but to Tyler, it was a footnote. Then the moment that truly sent shockwaves through the courtroom, Judge Caprio dialed Congressman Preston on speakerphone. You could practically feel the air get sucked out of the room. The congressman answered, "Yes, Your Honor." Caprio didn't dance around it. He asked if David Preston acknowledged that his son's actions were reckless. And in a moment of rare political clarity, Preston didn't deflect. He said, "Yes, I've raised my children to respect service. My son failed that value, I'm sorry." It was a powerful moment, and yet it wasn't enough. Because what Tyler needed wasn't a bailout, it was accountability. And that's exactly what he got. Judge Caprio handed down a sentence that had people across the country cheering.
If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Your feedback helps shape what we cover next, and you being here keeps the conversation going. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
$5,000 fine, a full-year license suspension, 500 hours of community service specifically at VA hospitals, and 30 days in jail. It was the kind of sentence that makes headlines not because it's outrageous, but because it's rare. A moment when the law looked past wealth, past connections, and said, "This matters." And Tyler, he finally broke. Standing there, stripped of the safety net that had always caught him, he looked directly at Marcus and said, "I'm sorry, I didn't understand until now, but I do." And maybe, just maybe, he meant it. Now here, where things really twist, because instead of disappearing into a PR-crafted redemption tour, the Prestons acted. Within days, a brand new, fully customized van was delivered to Marcus's home. No cameras, no interviews, just a knock at the door and a set of keys. But it didn't stop there. Congressman Preston launched the Williams Fund, a nonprofit supporting disabled veterans in need of adaptive transportation. And Tyler served every single hour of his community service. He was spotted cleaning hospital floors, assisting veterans, listening to their stories. At one point, a nurse reported seeing him in the cafeteria helping a man in a motorized chair navigate a lunch line. When someone asked if he was that congressman's kid, Tyler reportedly just nodded and said, "Yeah, and I'm trying to do better." No defense, no excuses. Just growth. And let's be real, it's not a fairy tale. Tyler will always carry that moment, that sentence, that headline. There's no version of this where everyone forgets. But maybe that's okay. Because this wasn't about erasing what happened, it was about making it mean something. And sometimes the people who crash the hardest, they're the ones who finally learn what it feels like to stand up. Even if it takes falling face first into reality to get there. So what do we take from all this? That money can buy a car, but not compassion. That a last name can open doors, but not erase damage. That real apology isn't about words, it's about change. And sometimes, justice does work the way it should. Sometimes the judge gets it right, sometimes the system listens. And sometimes the people who fall the furthest are the ones who come back with a story worth telling. So what do you think? Did Tyler Preston earn his redemption, or was this just another rich kid doing damage control? Would you have sentenced him differently? What would you have done in Marcus's shoes? Drop your thoughts in the comments, we're dying to hear what you think. And if you love stories where power, privilege, and reality collide, go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the beautiful disasters that define our culture, and make sure you stick around. Because in a world this wild, the next meltdown is never far away. Here's the part that no one really talks about. When the headlines fade, when the courtroom empties, when the internet moves on to the next influencer apology or celebrity breakdown, what happens to the people left in the wreckage? Because it's easy to follow the rise and fall of a rich kid with a famous last name. It's easy to scoff at Tyler Preston and the absolute disaster of a moment that turned his life and Marcus Williams's life upside down. But what's harder and honestly more interesting is what happens after the viral moment, when the spotlight turns off, when nobody's watching. For Tyler, the answer wasn't glamorous. It wasn't packaged with a glossy Instagram comeback post or a brand partnership about accountability. Instead, it was silence and work. Real work. He served all 30 days of his jail sentence. No special favors, no house arrest, not even a private holding cell. Just 30 long, humiliating days where the kid who once called Uber drivers civil servants had to live like someone who couldn't call daddy to fix it. But the real test came after that, because serving time is one thing, learning from it is another. And Tyler, for the first time in his life.
If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Your feedback helps shape what we cover next, and you being here keeps the conversation going. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
Life had to earn something. The 500 hours of community service weren't just about picking up trash or smiling for a photo op in a soup kitchen. These were hours spent in VA hospitals, with the men and women whose lives had been reshaped, sometimes shattered by war, people like Marcus, people who weren't impressed by last names, Ivy League applications, or luxury cars. Tyler wasn't special there. He was a helper, a listener, a reminder that privilege doesn't erase pain. And slowly, almost painfully slowly, he started to change. There's this one story that made its way through the veteran community. No media coverage, no tweets, just whispers between people who were there. It was a rainy afternoon at one of the VA centers. Tyler was helping unload supplies, nothing dramatic, just boxes stacked up in the rain. And a wheelchair-bound veteran, older, gruff, someone who'd lost both hands to an IED in Afghanistan, turned to him and said, "You're the one who hit that kid's van, right?" Tyler froze, he nodded. The vet didn't yell, didn't insult him, he just said, "You broke something you can't buy back, keep showing up, that's how you fix it." And Tyler kept showing up. He didn't speak at events, didn't try to capitalize on the nonprofit his family helped start. He wasn't the face of the Williams Fund. Marcus made sure of that. Tyler's job was behind the scenes, grant applications, vendor contracts, making sure other veterans got the equipment they needed before someone like him took it away. And Marcus? Well, Marcus had every right to hate Tyler, to drag his name through the mud, to bask in the sweet glow of revenge. But he didn't. Instead, he watched. He watched Tyler mop hospital floors and take notes during meetings. He watched him show up early, leave late. He saw the guilt in his eyes, not performative guilt, but the kind that sinks into your bones and forces you to change or rot. Eventually, Marcus agreed to meet him again. No cameras, just the two of them, face to face. And Tyler, nervous, shaking slightly, said only this: "You don't owe me forgiveness, but I owe you everything." They sat in silence for a long time, then Marcus said, "You owe it to the next guy, the one who won't get a second chance." And that stuck. Because here's what most people miss: accountability isn't just about paying for what you did, it's about protecting others from becoming your next victim. That's why Tyler stayed. He could have faded, could have changed his name, moved to another city, started fresh. But he didn't. He planted himself in the middle of the fallout and he let it change him. And in that chaos, something new emerged. The Williams Fund exploded in popularity. Word got out, donations poured in, veterans across the country applied for assistance and got it. Vans, prosthetics, home modifications, therapy sessions, real, tangible help, not slogans, not thoughts and prayers, action. In Tyler, he was working 10-hour days, 6 days a week, quietly, consistently, even after his sentence was over, even after the media had moved on, because it wasn't about optics anymore. It was about integrity. The same thing his father claimed to value. The same thing Tyler never understood until he destroyed something he couldn't replace. Look, no one's saying he's a saint. Let's not rewrite history. He wrecked a man's lifeline while texting about nonsense. He mocked it with a tone-deaf comment that will follow him forever. And he did it all while believing deep down that money could make it all disappear. But here's the twist: money didn't save him, work did. And Marcus, he saw that. He eventually joined Tyler at one of the fund's board meetings, not because he wanted to celebrate him, but because he wanted to make sure the work was real. And when a new application came through, a vet in South Carolina needing an adaptive lift, Marcus looked across the table and said, "This one's yours, Tyler, make it happen." And he did. He called vendors, he dealt with insurance. He stayed on hold for 4 hours until the grant paperwork was processed. Not because anyone was watching, but because he knew what happened when the system failed someone like Marcus. That's what accountability looks like. It's not always dramatic, it's not viral, it's not a TED Talk or a public apology video in soft lighting with piano music. It's work. It's showing up when it's uncomfortable, it's facing people who still don't trust you, it's knowing your name means something and that you decide what that meaning becomes. In Tyler, he's doing the work. One van, one ramp, one hard conversation at a time. But let's not fool ourselves, this isn't the kind of story that gets wrapped up neatly with a bow. No matter how many hours Tyler Preston clocks at a veterans center, no matter how many wheelchair ramps he installs or how many late-night grant applications he processes, there's still a lingering shadow. The kind of damage that doesn't fully heal, even with good intentions and high-profile philanthropy. Because at the center of this mess, at its most unfiltered and unforgiving core, is the fact that a man lost his independence, even if just temporarily, because someone else decided their text message was more important than someone's life. And that kind of wound, it doesn't just vanish. Marcus Williams still flinches when he talks about that day. He still remembers the sound of metal crunching, the van twisting out from under him, and the hollow look on Tyler's face when he stepped out of the Mercedes. Not scared, not sorry, just annoyed. That moment is etched into Marcus's memory not because it was painful.
If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Your feedback helps shape what we cover next, and you being here keeps the conversation going. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
But because it felt familiar. I've served my country, I've worn the uniform, and still to some people I'm invisible unless I'm a headline, he once said. That's what makes this story more than a scandal. It's not just a tale of a spoiled politician's kid learning a hard lesson. It's a window into something we see far too often: how veterans, people who have literally fought for the freedoms we all enjoy, are forgotten the moment they roll out of uniform. Because the crash wasn't just a physical collision, it was symbolic. Tyler's Mercedes, sleek, expensive, fast, and thoughtless. Marcus's van, practical, vital, slow-moving, and ignored until it was destroyed. The metaphors practically write themselves. But let's fast forward. It's been a year. The headlines have faded, the outrage cycle has cycled on, but something strange has happened. People are still talking, not in that TMZ, guess what he did now kind of way, but in a quieter, almost hesitant tone. I heard that kid's still working with veterans. He donated his car, did you know that? He's still in touch with Sergeant Williams. There's a skepticism, of course, there always is, and that's fair. Because public redemption stories have been abused for years, we've seen influencers apologize for things they're not sorry for, we've watched celebrities fake humility like it's part of their brand strategy. But Tyler, he didn't brand his redemption, he just lived it. People forget that real growth is boring, it's not flashy, it doesn't trend on social media. It looks like waking up early to unload supplies, it looks like doing taxes for a nonprofit when you used to spend summers at a beach house in Capri. It looks like sitting with a veteran who lost both arms and just needs someone to listen. And slowly, the skepticism started turning into something else. Not applause, not praise, but acknowledgement. The same community that once wanted to see Tyler dragged through the mud, they started to believe, just maybe, that he wasn't faking it. One particularly powerful moment came 6 months after his community service ended. At an event organized by the Williams Fund, Marcus took the stage. He didn't prepare a speech, he didn't read from a teleprompter, he just told the story one more time. But this time, when he got to the part about the crash, he paused. He looked over at Tyler, who was standing in the back wearing a plain t-shirt and jeans, clipboard in hand, and he said, "This kid destroyed my van, but he didn't run, he stayed. And he built something better not just for me but for every vet who's ever had to fight for their mobility." The room was silent. No one clapped, no one cheered, because they knew this wasn't the end of a movie, it was just another step. Later that night, someone asked Marcus if he'd forgiven Tyler. And he answered, "Forgiveness isn't a gift, it's a process, but I can tell you he's earning it." And that might be the most honest line in the entire saga. Because the truth is, forgiveness isn't a transaction. You don't earn it by checking boxes or writing checks. You earn it by showing up again and again when it would be easier to walk away. You earn it by being uncomfortable, by not trying to rewrite the past, but by taking full ownership of it. And Tyler, he owned it. He sold the Mercedes, quietly, no press release, just gone. He donated the money to the Williams Fund and started taking public transportation, not because it was symbolic but because it was humbling. And maybe for the first time in his life, that's what he needed most. He gave up the lease on his luxury apartment, moved into a smaller space near the VA hospital, took a part-time job there even after his sentence ended. He's not making 6 figures, he's not launching a brand, he's just helping. And maybe that's the point. Because real transformation doesn't come from a crisis, it comes from what you do after, when no one's clapping, when no one's filming, when no one's checking if you're still on brand. It's about building trust in the quiet. It's about being the kind of person who shows up not because they have to, but because they finally understand why they should. And in the end, that's what this story became. Not a scandal, not a tragedy, but a brutal, raw, real example of what it takes to be a better human after you've failed spectacularly in public. So maybe this isn't just the story of Tyler Preston. Maybe it's about what happens when justice doesn't stop at punishment, but pushes someone toward purpose. And if that's the kind of redemption arc we're building here, that's one worth watching. Let us know what you think. Did Tyler truly change, or did he just get better at wearing the mask? Would you forgive someone like him, or does redemption have an expiration date? Drop your thoughts below, we read everything. And if you're into stories that go deeper than the scandal, hit that like button. Subscribe for more chaos, accountability, and occasionally, just occasionally, real growth. Because the next headline, it's already loading. And you'll want to be here when it breaks.